Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. So, a couple quick things before we get started. I got a cold this week, so I sound a little funny, and there's a distinct possibility I could, cough. So I have water waiting just in case. So we'll see if we can get through this. Thankfully, it pretty much I caught it last weekend, and I feel pretty good. Still coughing up some stuff, but not too bad. But it's just going around. So take care of yourselves. Be safe out there, and all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty big week, kids. Quite a few new books. There's one book that I missed last week. I definitely want to point it. I want to point it out this week because I missed it last week. But we'll quickly go through. Because it's a Halloween season all month. Wishfully, it would. I wish it would be all year, but you can watch a horror movie anytime you want. So we'll go through. Actually, the top row is going to be really simple. It's the Vincent Price collections 1, 2, and 3 from Shout Factory. I believe they were out of print, but I think they're back in print now. They include a ton of stuff that Vincent Price was in. They're really good stuff. My favorites are the Dr. Phibes movies. Those are really, really good. Then down on the bottom row, we have Nightbreed. This is actually the special edition that includes I believe two cuts of the film. Yeah, there's theatrical and then there's the Cabal cut. Or director's cut or whatever it's called. There's been many different cuts, but it's the longer cut that is closer to Clive Barker's original vision of the film. Then we have the original The Witches from I believe the 80s. Not quite sure the year. But it's the Angelica Houston version. I didn't really care for the remake of it, even though the big difference is that the newer one does have the original ending to the book that Roald Dahl was not really happy because they did change the ending to this. But I just think it's a better film. It's directed by Nicholas Roeg. I always refer to it as the It's a Hammer film made for kids. Then we have the new 4K Rosemary's Baby. Not really keen on the cover, but hey, it's 4K, so And then we have the 4K The Mist, which I'm a really big fan of that particular film. And I normally don't buy steelbooks, but I did pick up the steelbook. I really, really like that one. And that's from Lionsgate. And that came out a couple weeks ago, so that's fairly new. So still trying to get into the Halloween mood. And actually, last week there were quite a few horror films or horror comics that came out. So there's a couple this week that I think kind of fall into that category. So we'll get to those. But first up, we have the Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, #1. It's written by Brian Buchetto, with artwork by Christian Deuce. So basically what this is it's obviously out of continuity, but it takes place in the continuity of the legendary Godzilla films, and then of course the Kong of Skull Island, and then of course Godzilla versus Kong. So what it is there's the Justice League, and then there's the villains, and really the best way to describe them is they're like the Legion of Doom. And so they get this idea of to defeat the Justice League. They go to the Fortress of Solitude so they can steal Oberon's chair and a boombox, so they can defeat the Justice League. So they're there and they try to steal it, and then the Justice League shows up. They stop them, but they get away in the boom tube. And one of the things that Toyman actually steals this crystal that's kind of like a wish crystal, and they end up, the boom tube sends them to Skull Island, where they see King Kong, and then they see the Monarch facility, and they see all the other kaijus. And so Toyman thinks that they're, he's like, these are all toys. So he wishes that they could use the toys to go after the Justice League, and that's the setup for this story. Look, it's it's an out of continuity thing. The good thing that Buscetto did here is, this is very easy for like new readers. If you've read comics, you kind of have an idea who the Justice League is, and same with Kong and Godzilla. It's very new reader friendly, or very comic friendly, which is a big plus, because this is a kind of book that, not necessarily in single issues, but when it comes out in a trade and stuff like that, that an average person might go, oh, well, that sounds kind of interesting because I know Godzilla and King Kong, and hey, I know these superheroes. It's a lot of fun. And really the big surprise on this is the artwork. The artwork actually is really, really nice. And once again, does a really good job of drawing the Justice League. Kong and Godzilla look really, really good. It's a fun little book. Now I will let you know there was supposed to be a version of the book that when you open it up and it either roars like Godzilla or roars like Kong. Those did not ship this week. They're actually been delayed about a month because I asked Ryan at the store, and he said, yeah, they got delayed. So so just to let you know, those covers are going to be coming out later, just not this week. So apparently I think some of the covers, variant covers, have been like running a little late a number of times on from a number of publishers. But it's a fun story, and I enjoyed it for what it was, and I love the Justice League. I love Kong. I love Godzilla. What more could you ask for? It's all rolled into one that has a good script and really nice artwork. So I think it's worth checking out this week. Next up, we have Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, #1, written and drawn by Patrick Horvath. To say that I was surprised by this book is really an understatement. And don't be fooled by the cover. So basically what it is there's Samantha. So it's the town and the cities are filled with animals that are humanistic, anamorphic. And so we're first introduced to Samantha, who runs the local hardware store in Woodbrook. And, it's something, it was handed down from her parents. And so, it starts off like this little town and everybody's friendly and everything. And then Samantha goes to the city, and this is where it gets really dark. She pretends like her car has some trouble, and this guy stops and helps her, and she basically, drugs him, knocks him out, and then kills him and slices him up, puts him in little paint cans and buries the paint cans. And you're just like, oh my God, cute little animals. She's killing people. It is so messed up, but it's like, the way that Hovarth, writes it and draws it, it really, even though it's messed up, it really has like a natural flow to it. I don't know how to explain it. It's like cute and scary all at once. And then, so what happens is, you learn her secret, and then she goes back to town, and then there's this big 200th anniversary parade. And while the float's coming down with the mayor on it, the sail comes down, and there's one of the residents that we've seen in the book is hanging from the top of the sail, and he's been split open and everything. So obviously it's not hers, but she goes to the city to kill people. She does not. Basically, she does not crap where she eats. She does not kill people in her town. She goes to the city where people disappear all the time. But in Woodbridge, this is really a big thing. So I was really blown away by this book. It's really amazing. There's obviously the disturbing stuff, but the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. And even, when Samantha kills the person, it's disturbing, but it's so it's so pretty, like it's so well drawn. It's really an amazing book. I'm really surprised by this book. I really like this book a lot, and I think the twist of the with the death in Woodbridge and how it might affect her and everything is just a great concept. I like I said, I really love this book. It's well worth checking out. Next up, we have Dwellings #2, written and drawn by Jay Stevens. So he originally did this as like a crowdfunding project. And so what it is they were done as individual issues. There were 6 issues, but Ani is actually doubling up on the issues, so it's 2 issues in one book. And so this story, there's 2 stories in here. There's Quiet Suki, which is about this lady goes to like the nursing home and is looking for her grandmother, and she can't find her, and she's like freaking out. And then she she sees them, or they send her to another room, and she sees that they're like gonna commit her because like your grandma doesn't live here. And so she runs out and she finds this bear puppet that she says, "This is my grandmother's bear puppet." And so the bear puppet like talks to her like it's like possessed or something, or she's imagining, I don't know, but it gets really weird, it gets really creepy, and it gets really dark. And it's really an interesting, there's a great twist at the end I'm not going to give away. And then there's the Public House, which is a haunted factory that this lady has gotten, she's owns it, or she's bought it, and she turns it into like this haunted house. And I really don't want to say anymore because there's a great twist in there to how this, but basically what Stevens is doing here, it's kind of like Harvey characters, like Casper, and visually they look like that, but they're just weird dark stories. And then also and you see it on the back here, I'll zoom in a little bit, where he does like ads like you would find in old comics, and they're really good. They're very much, they look like kids book, but they're disturbing. You do not give this book to a kid. But I'm a big fan of Jay Stevens over the years, and I really like this book a lot. He has a kind of twisted sense of humor, but I like the fact that they look like they're kind of look like Harvey comics, but they're just dark and disturbing. So definitely check this out. I really liked the first issue. I thought the stories in the second issue, and then the next issue, the final third issue is coming out in December. So, and I'm assuming they'll probably collect all 3 at that point in like a trade, but they're definitely worth picking up. Next up, we have the Sensational She Hulk #1, written by Rainbow Rowell, with artwork by Andres Genolit, and then there's a backup written by Jessica Gao, with artwork by Gavin Giddy. So this is the regular creative team that has been doing the Hulk, but they've kind of renumbered, and it's kind of a jumping on point for new readers. Now, I have not been reading the book, so I'm going in fresh, but I've actually heard quite a few good things about this book, and I think this is why they're renumbering it, to try to get people to kind of jump in on buying it, which in this case I think it's a good idea, because it's not like She-Hulk is like a big selling book. So I think they're in this case renumbering it and kind of restarting it #1 to try to get new readers into it is not a bad idea. The basic premise here is, it kind of, if you saw the She-Hulk show, kind of follows that, where it is her being the attorney and everything. So there's kind of the balance. She does superhero stuff, and then there's the attorney stuff, and she tends to represent superheroes, supervillains, and kind of the downtrodden and the oddballs. And so there's that part of the story. And then obviously there was the storyline of her hooking up with the Jack of Hearts, and the problem with that is he actually absorbs energy. And so obviously they can't kind of touch each other, because he would absorb her gamma rays. But recently he disarmed a nuclear, or like a bomb or something, and he absorbed that, so they can kind of they can make out. So There's that going on. So she's in a relationship with him, but obviously there's complications to that. And then also, she has this like some of her like super friends. They have this like fight club thing going. So it really, Rao has done a really good job of kind of setting up all the things that have been going on, but giving new readers enough to like get what has been going on, so they can jump on this book, and that is really good. The backup is really it's a pretty simple story. It's about this guy that comes to shadow her for the day, and so she shows him how like, hey, this is what it's like to be a superhero. And I won't tell you the twist, but it's really it's a cute little story. And Gao is the showrunner for the She-Hulk, so it was really neat that she wrote for the comic. So that's kind of how that came about. So it's a nice little bonus for this first issue. I really like it. I wouldn't say that the book blew me away, but that's not what it's trying to do, and it's kind of a light. I wouldn't say comedy, but it's a more lighter book. In some ways, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like Squirrel Girl, where it's kind of a little off kilter and stuff, but fun. So I definitely I'll kind of keep checking it out, and maybe if I kind of continue to like it, kind of pick up the trades of the original. But I think Rao's doing a good job. And the artwork, I can't remember if I mentioned it, but Andres Genelot did the artwork for the main part of the story, and it really looks nice. It's a good looking book, and the artwork has kind of a bit of a simple style, which does fit the story really well. It's not a flashy book, but then it doesn't need to be. I think if the art was too busy, it wouldn't work as well. So definitely check it out. I think it's worth checking out, and like I said, now I can see why a lot of people have been talking about it. Next up, Kill Your Darlings, number 2, written by Ethan Parker and Griffin Sheridan, with artwork by Robert Quinn. So the first issue, it was about a little girl, and she imagined that she had this dream world where there were cute animal friends and stuff like that. And at the end of that first issue, she comes home, and her stuffed animals have been ripped apart, and her drawings are like dark, because there's like a darkness in the fairyland that is encroaching into the real world. And at the end of the first issue, the house is on fire, and she comes home and the house is on fire, and it's assumed that she set the house on fire and killed her mother. Now, we do know that she didn't do it. So the second issue is she's grown up, but she's in like a mental facility, so she's trying, everybody thinks that she killed her mom, burned her house down, but we know she didn't. And her childhood friend comes to visit her and says, hey, why don't we, we'll skip out tonight. We'll, kind of break you out, and we'll go hang out from here. And she's getting ready to do it. And then one of the fantasy creatures from the fantasy land actually comes into the real world. So there is kind of the barrier between the two worlds, as we saw in the first issue, has kind of been broken. And so her furry friends, her fantasy land friends, are coming to rescue her. And take her back to Fairyland to defeat the being that is causing the problems, the villain of the piece. It's really interesting. I mean, the first issue was quite interesting, and I think the second issue, Parker and Sheridan do a nice job of building on that story, and not necessarily giving everything away. I like how they're kind of slowly building the story out, which it's working well. And Quinn's artwork's nice, especially he does the real world stuff, and then the kind of fairy tale characters are, they're cute and everything. It's actually a surprisingly good little book. I think we'll kind of see where it goes, but I'm liking what they're laying down so far. But it is one of those stories that it's kind of a bit of a slow burn, so just be kind of aware of that. Next up, we have Rumpus Room, number 2, written by Mark Russell, with artwork by Romain Rosanas. So the basic premise here is Bob Shrunk is this billionaire who basically captures people, and it basically he how do I describe it? He basically squishes them down to make this face cream that makes him young. So this machine smashes people, and then the cream comes out and he uses it. So what this issue kind of deals with is how people end up there, and a lot of it is that if you don't ask questions, a number of people have worked for him that have been used for this, and stuff like that. But the big twist in the story is we kind of jump to the past and we see Bob with his son, and then we also find out after that part that his son is now his daughter. So she is now his daughter. So she's locked up in prison because he's just like, he's disowned her. So there's that going on. Plus we have the cop, or the investigator that has come in. Then now she's in the prison, and of course she's got a gun. So she's like formulating to get out. So all these other people have been other people that tried to get out. It didn't go well. So that's kind of the interesting, building that Russell has done from the first issue. I really like the premise of this book, and I think the second issue really kind of fills out a lot of the story of how these people came to be. We know what he's doing. Now we're learning the other side. So I think the third issue will kind of start, excuse me, we'll start bringing these all together. So, Rosin's artwork, the artwork's really, really nice. I really like this book. As you all know, I'm a big fan of Mark Russell, and I think it's worth checking out. I dig it. It's a very disturbing book, but it's really, I think, the thing, and we see it here in the second issue, is really building on the characters in the story, which is really, what is making the story really good. It's about the characters. So definitely check this out. Next up, we have Garrick The Flash #1, written by Jeremy Adams, with artwork by Diego Oltagari. So what this is, so part of this has to do, it would really be good if you had read the Stargirl and Lost Children miniseries, because that's how, what it is that Judy was Jay and Joan's daughter, and back in 1963, they went to stop a villain from destroying the dam. And what happened was that, whether it was that villain or somebody else, that was the one that transported her to the island where the lost children were. So she was basically, her memory, their memory of her was just wiped out. So now she's back in the present day. And so now they remember that they had a daughter, but they're much, much older. So it'd be almost like she's seeing her grandparents. So, she hasn't lost any time, because time has basically stood still for her, but the world has moved on, because on the island there was no time change. They all stayed kids. And so that's kind of going on. And then there's this, Jay is trying to kind of teach her, how to react in the real world and everything. It was okay. I don't think it was terrible by any stretch of the imagination. It was all nice and everything. I didn't find it amazingly compelling. I think there's some good ideas, and Adams is a decent writer. I just think there's a lot of setup here, so I don't know that there was anything that was super compelling, but then he is trying to explain a lot. So once again, you have that balance of exposition and trying to tell a story. So I think there's some good ideas here. We'll kind of see where it goes. I know I'm messing up the name. Oltagari. The artwork's nice, but it kind of has that 90s, kind of Jim Lee-ish style that kind of the Image gang style. I'm not necessarily a big fan of that particular artwork style. I don't hate it, but it's a nice looking book. The artwork is nice. It's just not necessarily my style, but it gets the job done, and it actually is really nicely detailed. I'll give it that. It's just not my cup of tea, but I don't think it's like horrible artwork by any stretch of the imagination. It does look good. It's just not my style of liking, but it was okay. I just didn't think it really blew me away by any stretch of the imagination. Next up, we have Klik, Klik, Boom, number 5, written by Doug Wagner with artwork by Doug Dabbs. So now this is the last issue, so it wraps everything up. So we have Sprout, who doesn't talk. So she talks with Polaroids, and then along the way she's gotten with Serena, who's a reporter that is been following Harrington, who runs this corporation. And what we have found out is that the reason that Harrington killed Sprout's father was the corporation did bad things, and so he helped them cover stuff up. And so Harrington is now trying to lead the corporate into the new millennium sort of thing. And so he basically is, tying up all the loose ends. So that's why he killed the father. I don't really want to say anymore because it's a really wonderful ending, and I really, really like this book a lot. The story, Wagner's story was really, really great. And Dabbs' artwork is just gorgeous. If you missed it, because I know it's going to be hard, it wasn't a big selling book. There is a trade that's going to be coming out at the end of the book. It says it's coming out in January, so probably be solicited fairly soon. But I really like this book. Definitely check it out. If you can still find the issues, I'd pick it up. But at this point, you might just wait for the trade. Definitely pick that trade up. I really enjoyed this book a lot. Really great story. Gorgeous artwork, definitely worth picking up. Next up, we have Hack and Slash Back to School, number 1, written and drawn by Zoe Thorogood. First of all, I've never read Hack and Slash, so this is all new. But the good thing about this is definitely like you don't have to have read it. Zoe, obviously Zoe's mostly known now. Let me, because I don't want to mess up the name of her graphic novel. It's Lonely at the Center of the Earth, which is really an amazing graphic novel. Go buy that. That book is amazing. But anyways, so she's doing this, and so the basic story here is Cassie Hack is kind of been hanging out with his monster partner Vlad. And so they're at this, fast food restaurant, and this guy comes in and, starts killing people. And then Darla Ritz comes in and kills the guy. And so she brings Hack and Vlad to her school. It's Academy for Girls. They're hunters for hire. And so they basically track down she's teaching them to track down serial killers. So that's the main premise here. I really like the story. I love Zoe's artwork. It has just a very different feel. It's kind of, more of a, not realistic, but has more of a reality tone to it visually, I think. I really like this, and it definitely, like I said, I've never read Hack and Slash, but I really like this, and like I said, it's a good jumping on point for new readers, and I'm sure people who've read Hack and Slash will probably enjoy this too, so it's definitely worth checking out this week. Next up, we have Harley Quinn Black plus White plus Redder number 4. So now there's 3 stories in each issue. The first story is Harley Quinn and the 7 Sidekicks, written and drawn by Zoe Thorogood. A Voice Traveling, which is written by Kyle Starks and with artwork by Chris Schweitzer. And then The Golden Years, which is written by Sean Lewis with artwork by Hayden Sherman. Now, this is why I put these books back to back, because it's a twofer for Zoe this week. So the Zoe story is actually really funny. It's So what it is she gets these little girls and because she thinks she needs a sidekick, and she road tests them out to see if they'll be good sidekicks. It's kind of like if Harley just grabbed a band of like Girl Scouts and said, "Here, be my sidekicks." It's really quite funny. They all have different personalities. It's a lot of fun, and Zoe really has a lot of fun with it. The artwork is amazing. The story is just really, really good. Voice traveling, the Starks Schweitzer one is really good. It's about Harley is at dinner, and this old friend from school, from medical school, Jeannie comes by, sees her, and comes by, and because they're catching up, and they talk. Says Harley, "Hey, do you remember this guy Donnie? He picked on us when we went to school, and now he's like a bad guy." So basically, Harley doesn't really remember, but Joan jogs her memory, and so Harley basically goes after Don to teach him a lesson about bullying, and it does not go well for Don, obviously. It's a fun story. I'm a big fan of Kyle Stark. And Chris Schweitzer, they worked together on the Six Sidekicks book at Image, which was really good. Definitely check that out. And this one was another winner. The wildest one in some ways is the Golden Years, the Lewis Sherman one. So it's Harley is older, like grandma age, and she's watching TV, and all of a sudden the signal goes bad, and what it is this alien. So it looks like the alien from Aliens, but not really. It's kind of close, but not. It's copyright thing. And so what it is that the alien has come, and he just keeps saying broadcast, broadcast. So obviously it's kind of seen TV. So, at first Harley's like, beating it up and everything. And then they end up in this television studio, and then it keeps saying broadcast. And she's like, well, let's make a TV show. So they literally, Harley and this alien make a TV show that's like, it's just really hilarious. It's a really good story. The thing I always like about these books is, you get people who can't necessarily do a full regular book or stuff like that. So you just get, like little small bites. And I'm a big fan of short stories because you've only got X amount of pages to tell your story, and you've got to get it. You've got to nail it right there. And these three just nail it. The stories are great. The artwork's great. This another, and these are all one and done. So you can just pick up this issue by itself. You don't need to pick up the previous three. They're standalone stories, and then the next issue will have 3 stories in it too. So hang on a second. Okay. Now we can keep going. Next up, we have Hexagon Bridge number 1 and Hexagon Bridge number 2. Both written and drawn by Richard Blake. Now, I missed this book when it came out last month, which is one of those that sometimes you just miss stuff. But the reason I decided to check it out is because the cover for the second issue was absolutely gorgeous. And so Wendy at the store had said, yeah, I read the first issue. It was really good. So basically, it's kind of it's not a convoluted story, but it's kind of very drawn out, like what's kind of going on. So the first issue really tells 3 stories. One about Jacob and Elena, and they're the parents of Adelaide. And so what it is they're explorers, and they discover that not them, but there's discovery that there's kind of this parallel dimensions, and while they're exploring them, they get trapped in them. But Adelaide has this like connection with them. It's like she can kind of see them. So they're also creating this like robot that's like going to be this super smart robot and everything. And so what it is so Adelaide, the second issue. So the first issue is they get lost. You get introduced to like the characters in the premise, and then the second issue has to do with Adelaide and the robot, because now she's older. stand-in, where they're going to go to the other dimensions to try to rescue her parents. And that's the basic, kind of the basic premise. Visually, the book is absolutely stunning. The artwork is amazing. And the story is really unique. Like it's got the premise of it isn't particularly original per se, like the concept isn't, but the execution's where it's really where that's where Blake really shines with this book. And like I said, it's definitely a very slow burn. There's a lot of times where it's just kind of the story's told visually. But it's absolutely amazing. But I also think it's going to be a book that works really well reading at once. But I didn't feel that, like, yeah, because now I read the first two, I read 2 issues back to back. So yeah, it could be a little bit of a struggle, but I did really enjoy the book. And like I said, visually it's amazing. And I think the story's got a great hook to it. So definitely well worth checking out this week, and see if you can find the first issue while you're looking for the second issue. Next up, we have Nightwing number 107, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Stephen Byrne. And then there's a backup, Emo Buddies Part 2, written by Michael W. Conrad, with artwork by Serge Acuna. So what it is Beatrice, who owns a bar, we find out that she is also one of Dick Grayson's exes that did not end well. Basically, he told her, well, I've got problems, and he basically dumped her. So obviously that's not going to go well. But we find out that Captain Blood, who was, he was holding, this, he had this ship that had secret, basically deposit boxes where people would put stuff that they didn't want in a normal bank, something that was kind of off the books sort of thing. And so what it is Captain Blood he was killed last issue by the Heartless. And but Beatrice is his adopted daughter. So now she's taken the ship that has all the boxes on it, and they've hidden it. So that's where they're going, because it seems to be everybody wants to find this box that is for Dick Grayson, and so. And so that's the basic premise. What's interesting is, and you see it on the cover, but they actually make the joke of the way that Dick is drawn, the way he puts the clothes on with his chest out and everything. She actually makes the joke of him he looks like a Harley Quinn romance novel boy. And it's really, really quite funny, but it's really interesting. I'm a big fan of this book. I'm really digging it. The backup by Conrad and Acuna, it was okay and everything. It's basically Jason and Dick at a bar, and then they get into a bar fight, kind of out back. It's kind of okay. It kind of connects with the first story, but it kind of, I don't know. It was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was fine. But the main story is really good, and I'm kind of liking the swashbuckling adventures that they're doing in this particular storyline. So definitely, I'm a big fan of this book. Once again, Bruno Redondo is sadly missing, but I think Stephen Byrne is doing a really nice job. And they don't let that stop you. We all miss Bruno. Bruno's a great artist, but he probably needs a break. But Byrne is definitely doing a great job on this book, and it's still well worth picking up. I love this book. Next up, we have Midlife, or How to Hero at 50, number 1, written by Brian Buccellato, with artwork by Stefano Simone. Now, this is the book that I missed last week, and I did read it last week, but it kind of came later after I did the review. I really, really enjoyed this book. Basically what it is Ruben is, his dad was a firefighter, and he died in a fire. And so, Ruben, kind of followed his footsteps, but he was kind of afraid to be a fireman. So he's actually does a desk job. But he just turned 50. And, then, when he comes home, he discovers that his wife's pregnant and they're going to have another child. And he's had a previous marriage and he has a kid from that. So there, it's kind of like, he's having this midlife crisis. And so he's also thinking about retiring. And so one of the little side stories is that every day he goes to work, he goes by this homeless encampment, and there's this lady, he kind of keeps an eye on her and her dog. And but he warns her, hey, they're going to come and tear down the camp, just make sure you have your stuff ready to go, or get it out by the day before they come. And so when he goes by the next day, the camp, or her tent's on fire, he goes in because the dog is like freaking out. And what we find out is that he's fireproof, so he was afraid of getting burnt, but he actually can't be burnt. So now the question is, he's 50, he's retired, but is he going to become like a superhero? It's kind of interesting. Buccellato, it's he writes in the back that this is kind of like he's at kind of the same age as Ruben. And he also knows some friends who are firemen and stuff like that. So he kind of, is kind of putting all these real life tropes or, ideas together. And, he's kind of creating like a fictionalized true life story. It's all fiction, but it's based on things that he knows. And I really, really like the book. I mean, it definitely, you get to know Ruben and his wife and all this kind of stuff really well. And then, there's kind of the twist at the end. I really enjoyed this book. And Simone's artwork is actually really, really nice. It's definitely worth checking out. If your comic store still has it, I would definitely check this book out. Next up, we have Superman Lost, #7, written by Christopher Priest, with artwork by Carlo Paglian and Lee Weeks. And so what this particular is, so he's lost in space, basically. And so we also have the parts, we have him where he's in the present, and the story of him being lost is in the past. And so this issue kind of focuses on he's gotten off the world, so he's kind of floating, and he's trying to ride the streams back to Earth. And what he comes across is like a older version of himself that has been stuck in like this loop. And except for this, it's kind of a warning from the future that he shouldn't follow the path that he's going on, because the path that this older Superman took did not turn well. He went back to Earth, but it didn't turn out the way he wanted, and things went bad. So he's basically, it's kind of like his future self telling him, hey, don't take this path. This path will lead you to sadness. And it's really interesting because that part of the story, that's the part that's drawn by Lee Weeks. And then Paglian, does like the framing sequence around that. I really have been loving this book a lot. And there's also the kind of subplot that went in this story that Lois is, because Superman's having a hard time readjusting after, being lost for like 10 years, I think it was. And so Lois meets Lex. And so we'll kind of see what comes about that, but it may not be good. Excuse me. And, but like I said, I'm really liking this book. Priest is doing a great job. Pagliara's artwork is always really nice. Lee Weeks is always a win. Definitely, I love this book. It definitely still worth checking out. Next up, we have Avengers Inc. #2, written by Al Ewing, with artwork by Leonard Kirk. So the second issue, so we have Victor Shade, which is Vision's alter ego, but it's this Victor Shade is, kind of possessed as one of the prisoners from the first issue. Well, the real Vision shows up, and they're at the Avengers Mansion, and it's basically kind of a murder mystery. There's this this creature looks like death with the sickle and everything is killing people in there. And so Wasp and Victor and Vision have to kind of solve the mystery. I liked the first issue. I think it had some, really good ideas and everything. The second issue was nice, but it was kind of standalone. It's like, okay, they're trying to find out why the people in prison were killed, but then they came back to life. And yet this issue was just kind of like, okay, there's this murder mystery in Avengers Mansion, and yeah, like he thinks he's Victor Shade, and then Vision says, no, that's my alter ego. There's that, but I didn't really feel that it like moved the needle on the story. It was a nice standalone issue, with a murder mystery, but it was like, okay, it just didn't, for me, it just didn't move the story really forward much. I mean, it just kind of like, okay, here's another story. Kirk's artwork's nice, but I just felt that it was a nice read, but it didn't really move the story forward as much as I would want it. I mean, there was a few things, but not really. So it's kind of okay. Next up, we have Local Man number 6, written by Tony Fleece and Tim Seeley, with artwork by Tony Fleece doing the Farmington, the main part of the book. And then Seeley draws the third gen backup stories. So this continues from the first story arc. And so what it is Inga, his former girlfriend, she runs a coffee shop in town. And they've recently kind of re-hooked up, but she's married. So there's kind of that going on. So Jack's kind of like, well, maybe we can get back together. And she's like, and then this conspiracy nut comes into the coffee shop and it's like, because he knows Crossjack's in town. And so Crossjack has to like defeat him and everything. And I won't, don't want to give too much away. But really, then, there's that, but it kind of leads into, there's this mysterious death of this young girl in town that, she supposedly drowned but the thing is that she's like not an Olympic swimmer, but she's like a swimmer. And the sheriff's like, I don't know, this is really weird. She shouldn't be dead because she kind of drowned, but we're not sure that she really drowned. So there's some kind of mystery in the woods, and he asked Crossjack to go out there because there's like this hippie commune that they come to town or they're in the woods or something. So he thinks that might have something to do with it. So there's kind of a lot of story. Plus there's also the thing with, that I won't say that from the previous, the fifth issue, that Inga is involved with like, the third gen, kind of the corporation behind it. There's that in that kind of, that's going on in the story. And the backup is kind of it's an Inga story that is kind of telling how she met Crossjack and like in their younger days. It was really actually a neat backup. I really like that backup. I dig this book. Tony and, Tim are doing a great job on this book. It's definitely worth picking up, and there's a trade out of the first 5 issues, so you can read that and then jump right into the 6th issue. Next up, we have Titans number 4, written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Nicholas Scott. This is, what it is so there was the fire in Borneo. And so what it is Gar is, or Beast Boy is, he's like wants to, like, we need to, like, help, and we need to replant trees. We need to help the environment. We can't just be about fighting villains all the time. We have to, kind of be social, justice and fix things that are messed up that way, not necessarily just beating up bad guys. So the Titans are like, yeah, that's really a good idea. So they go down to Borneo, where there's corporations are like, plowing under, to build, deforest things. And so the Titans go in, and so that catches the attention of Amanda Waller, because the Titans are kind of basically kind of the new Justice League. And Waller's like, well, I don't know if they think they know what they're doing. So there's kind of that going on. And then Excuse me. Then there's the Aqualad thing, which I will not give away, but yeah, there's some messed up stuff going on there. And then we're still trying to figure out Wally is apparently dead in the future, and he's traveled back 24 hours. So they're trying to figure out how he died, so maybe they can stop it. So there's a lot going on in Titans. It does make a lot of sense. I know it does. I'm not making a lot of sense, but it does make a lot of sense. Taylor's keeping it going. I'm liking it. Nicholas Scott's artwork is really wonderful. Definitely still worth picking up. And finally this week we have the Bone Orchid Mythos Tenement number 5, written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino. So this is it's interesting because they've gone into the catacombs that are under the building. It's kind of like they've been transported to hell. That's the only way I can think of the best way to describe it in a quick way. And so this issue takes place in one of the tenants' apartment, Felix, who is missing. We don't know where Felix is. So it's kind of like they get a breather moment, but we find out that even though it's kind of like the real apartment, it's still connected to this like catacombs of the underworld. And so we kind of get a bit of breathing in this issue, where not only the characters catch their breath, we get to catch our breath with all the stuff that's been kind of thrown at us in this book. Once again, I'm a big fan of these two. This is really, really an interesting book. Like I said, you don't have to read the Passageway, which is the first one, and I can't think of the second one. Oh, 10,000 Feathers, Black Feathers, I think. You don't have to have read those, but they all kind of part of the same universe. There's little bits and pieces in each one, but this is a standalone story. You can read this. Once again, I love this book. I love these guys. It's a really great horror book. It's really messed up, but like in a slow burn kind of way. So it's still worth checking out. That's going to do it. I know it's a long show. We had a lot of books to get through this week. And as always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan, the owner, runs a great store. There's Annie, there's Wendy, there's Derek, who runs their social media. It's a great store. Definitely check it out. Check out their socials. And it's just a great store. If you're in the area, definitely stop by. And as always, we end our show with be kind to each other, be kind to yourself. Kindness is easy. It's free. With all the stuff going on in the world, and I know in people's personal lives, it's tough. It's really tough out there. But if you be kind to others and be kind to yourself, you can really make somebody's day. And making somebody's day just by saying hello, opening the door, just being kind. It's good for you. And like I said, always be kind to yourself. I know it's tough. It's hard sometimes to get through the day, but being kind to yourself, will really help you. Just don't, look for the little things in life. Don't worry about the big things sometimes. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. As always, please like, subscribe, and share, our YouTube, channel, and videos. And, as always, comments are welcome. Keep them coming. And, just thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. We'll do it again next week. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.